CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeremy Furry. Not really attached to this other than just moderating it, make sure nothing comes to blows, no headlocks, anything like that. But no, an absolute pleasure to introduce this group. There's a reality that if you know Greg only hangs out with titans of the industry by choice. Greg's been around a long time. He's dealt with a lot of BS in his days, so he chooses his friends wisely, and definitely reflected by this panel up here. I would probably take the next hour just reading credentials off of this, which is not what we signed up for. So I'll just leave it at this. Greg's on an awesome panel up here with Mark Kingkade, Ozella, Bowman, right? Yep. Cody, Creager, and then Trent, McJunkin. Some of the smartest people in the industry that I know from a lot of different aspects, whether it's work management, CMMS, condition monitoring, reliability, people that have walked the walk, talked the talk for many of the years. It's just an honor that I can even be this close to the stage at this point. And so with that, just trust that everything that comes out of their mouths up here is baked in reality, baked in experience, which is important, and not baked in BS, which feels really important these days, because there certainly seems to be a lot of that out there. So thank you guys so much. Let's have a lot of fun for the next hour and a half.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was awesome, brother. So essentially, anybody that read what we put together to kind of advertise this and kind of bring you along, the whole concept here is taking it from the floor to the board. And what that really means is from the plant floor to the boardroom, because what we've all learned at Reliable Plant so far this week, including when Jeremy did his presentation just a little while ago, is we have to work harder to make a better case within to leadership to see and understand the plant floor. So we want to take it from that point all the way up. Trent McJunkin's going to be batting cleanup as what I like to call the non-existent role that we're pushing for, called the Chief Maintenance Officer. Cody Creager is going to represent us from the plant floor. This is where you're dealing with all the potential firefighting, but how and why does CMMS, condition monitoring, and all this stuff kind of come together? Ozella is going to run point on the CMMS platform. A lot of you know MaintainX. She really knows what she's doing. And then Mark is going to help us out from the condition monitoring perspective, but he's going to spatter in the different things about the realities of maintenance management, reliability, and all those things. That's why I assembled this team. So I'm basically here to just kind of chime in on occasion, see if you have questions. We're going to do a lot of interaction here. We got 90 minutes, so let's get started. We're going to kind of kick it off with Cody talking about some of the perspectives from the plant floor, and Ozella will kind of run the slides. If we have any kind of disruption with slide movement or we have to jump back to something, that's kind of like the world of maintenance. Things are going and moving, then they stop, you got to move back. So let's just keep it real. We're not looking for perfection. We want to actually make a difference for all of you, to make a better case and see what matters in this whole story of taking it from the plant floor to the boardroom.
Awesome. Perfect.
So actually, starting here, it's a slightly different starting point, but if you have something that you want to interject,
No, go for it.
go straight forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to mix and match.
We're gonna mix and match. So really, what we're talking about at the end of the day here is taking some initial signals and how those signals are actually going to transfer all the way up the chain, right? And there's a variety of different types of signals that we're talking about. But if we really step back and think about it like a game of telephone, right? Telephone, way back when, elementary school, you start with one person and somebody whispers in your ear, right? They're passing a message, and by the time it gets around the room, half of that message is lost. There's a lag time from that initial signal and the first point of ingesting that signal, capturing that data at the point of the incident, and then transferring it up the chain, right? And by the time it comes out, a lot of the integrity is lost. And what we see when we bring that forward right? Present day, adult times, that game of telephone now is costing billions of dollars to organizations. Billions of dollars because signals get lost, because they're not able to get acted upon very quickly or swiftly. And so the goal in this conversation today is how can we start to capture that signal sooner so that our teams can act on it, so that they can translate that into meaningful information upstream, right? How do we retain the data integrity from the point of the incident and move beyond some of the gut feelings that we've been relying on lately and make that, again, actionable data that we can trust? What we'll see here, right, wrench time, 4 to 6 hours lost due to communication gaps. And that's on average, right? Some folks will report maybe a little bit less, but I've spoken to a number of folks today who report way more of wrench time lost because they're running around trying to capture not just the root cause, but why something happened, when did it happen, who heard it first, which machine, and why. And that's where, conversations, of course, when we talk about condition monitoring and pulling that information in using systems like Waites, really helps to close that gap and reduce the lag time. You have anything to add there?
No, one of the things I've always stressed every place I've ever been is the need for open communication. Talk to the operators that are running it. Sometimes something happens, I see it vibration-wise, but it's not really related to a machine issue. An operator just wanted to make his machine run the way he wanted it or she wanted it. So she done some tweaks or he done some tweaks to it, and it's detrimental to the mechanical health of the machine. But without the communication for the analyst or whoever's doing the work to go talk to them, or like Cody, go talk to them about things, explain to them why what they're doing isn't good, and then you get the people that come back to you and say, well, I knew this was bad, but I didn't want to tell anybody because they may get mad. You got to get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations at times. I can't fix something if I don't know it's not running right, or I don't know that something has happened, so that I can fix it and maybe do something so that the issues don't come up again.
That don't know, that's where that 70% up there is coming from, right? All those insights around who needed to fix it, who fixed it, how they fixed it, why they fixed it, what went wrong in the first place. All of that's part of the same gap in communication, the same lag from that signal, from the point when something happens or something's going wrong, where the machine is telling you something that you can't hear, and then translating that into a system that can help you to actually do something with it. So that's where some of this layering comes from, and a lot of what we're going to be really talking about today, right? You think with your CMMS, right? That system is going to effectively function as a backbone for you for getting things done. And that becomes all the more meaningful when you can actually ingest the data from your condition monitoring. So that's where we start to get that much more powerful by actually connecting the two. And then, of course, enabling real-time communication, right? That's the lag. And I'm going to say that a number of times because the more distance you have from the signal to the action to that final resolution and reporting, the more distance you have there, the more integrity you start to lose in the quality of the information that you're passing along.
Does everyone see and experience that in their current environments? Yeah. How many of you have a CMMS at this time? How many of you use condition monitoring technology? All right, good percentage of you.
How many do you have them connected?
How many are connected?
How many have you had them connected?
How many are communicating with those devices into the CMMS? Nobody.
Getting that closed loop is going to be very important. That's actually something that I'm working towards right now too, is getting that closed loop where I can get the data from the condition monitoring into my CMMS system. We do the work, we close out our work order, it sends that data back to the condition monitoring as a resolved solution. That gap, a communication gap and the data gap, it closes up there, and you really get some good information from it, and it's a lot quicker that way.
And sometimes a lot of CMMS systems, they'll have a thing, so I found it beneficial long-term if I'm writing a work order, if I have a CMMS that has a place I can indicate how I found the problem. Was it discovered using ultrasound, vibration, oil analysis, things like that? If you start tagging your work orders related to what's generated or the things that found it, when you go back and do data mining in 4 or 5 years or a year or whatever and start pulling stuff up on a machine, you can kind of see what's been found, why it's been found, and how it's been found, so that as things start generating, it gives you a way to see what's effective, what's not effective as far as maintaining the machine or finding the issues that are going on. And I don't think many people are even tagging their work orders with the technology, you know, because there's some things I've wrote up on my vibration reports when I'm doing my route work or whatever, but it was actually found, the defect that I wrote up was found because I was there and it was more or less a visual inspection. So things that I was finding related to a visual inspection had nothing to do with vibration. And then when they become a remote type setup where I'm monitoring things with vibration remotely, things that I used to catch visually are being missed, and the guys are wondering, they think it's a failure of the vibration. It's not a failure of the vibration program, but that's a hole that's developed. When you take away the route-based person, you don't have a person at that machine every week or every month or every quarter to do that visual inspection. Or while you're walking through the plant, you're seeing things that aren't even related to the machines you're working on, but because you're going through there, you're finding issues and defects that you can write up. And many times those inspections are never recorded, never validated, and people don't understand that hole that's being left in there when I go to all these different remote programs.
I agree with that, because I still do some my lube route and vibration route that's in on top of our condition monitoring too, just so we have that human point of it, getting in there and doing inspections. So I think it's very key still to have that.
Absolutely. Keeping a human in the loop, right? I'm sure you may have heard that phrase. And as we start to talk about layering systems and integrating technologies, none of that discounts the need for continuing to have people involved in the processes. So a lot of what Mark was just talking about really kind of resonates with where we are with this particular path, right? This workflow of, again, capturing that signal as soon as something happens and making sure that it's a reliable signal, right? Being able to ingest that data and that information and deposit it into a system of record that can hold it against that asset, tag it to that piece of equipment. So now that you're building up a rich memory that outlives the people, right? The people are going to give you data, your sensors are going to give you data, your systems are going to give you data, and then you want to be able to hold on to that, keep those records and move them along so that you can develop reports and analytics, whether it's a snapshot in time or a trend over time, so that you can make better decisions across your company.
I want to see what we get from Trent here, what's been said so far from that leadership perspective, and you having been in plants where you're doing full turnarounds, or maybe it's a segment where you got to do a turnaround. How does this unfold when people try to bring these technologies in, and does leadership see the value? And if they don't, how do we make a case for that just at this point?
So a lot of times the people in these executive or leadership positions don't see the value because they did not come from the trenches. Does anybody in here work for a plant manager or an executive leader that came from maintenance or reliability? Lucky. You're very lucky. Most did not. So you have to convey the message in a way that hits what they care about and aligns with business objectives. And that isn't always forwarding a vibration report in an email or a snapshot of your dashboard for MaintainX. You have to align it to what they feel pain with how they're measured, And a lot of times, these executives are incentivized by short-term measures. They're measured quarterly, yearly, and a lot of times the right thing isn't the easy thing to do because it hits their metrics. So just to keep that in mind.
Does anybody have any questions so far? Because what I want to do is install a few breaks where you guys can participate and ask any question with what you've seen so far. Good to go? All right, carry on.
Well, it was a pretty solid segue, really, just into the next kind of container. You know, talking more about what's happening on the floor and how that impacts the data, right? Again, just talking about the reality of how folks are capturing data on the floor and the experience of what the technicians need. You want to talk a little bit more about that, Cody?
Yeah, sure. Right now, like I was saying earlier, I'm working on integrating my two systems together right now. So currently, you know, when we get there and we have an alert for our condition monitoring, that alert only goes out to a handful of people. So that information has to go from me or the couple people that are on the email thread and give it out to the technicians that are going out there on the floor. They're doing their rounds every morning and they're going through and checking all these things and getting eyes on. But right now, if we get an alert, something just to check, or if it's critical, we get an email alert from it and we have to follow up on it. And then when we're following up on it and we do work to the asset, we then have to go into our CMMS system, put in a work order for it to follow up, get that closed loop, and then we got to get back into our condition-based maintenance platform to close that loop there. It works very well as long as you have that communication and you're quick about it. So I like it too, having a system, you know, where you have some vibration analysis where they actually give you a little bit of input on what could possibly or potentially be the issue that you're having. And so having that expertise on the other side of that computer is very good in my opinion. So make sure when you guys are looking into this stuff, you have people that have the certifications or the experience to give you good instructions or good troubleshooting points to take a look at it. I think I find it very key to have that info. And the nice thing is too, if something doesn't work and we put that information back into the system, they always have another step for us to do. Well, if that didn't fix it, let's take a look at this next. And so, yeah, we're not always going to fix it right the first time because we're troubleshooting something. But if something doesn't work, there's always another avenue or option to take to remedy the issue.
I will add to what Cody was saying about understanding vibration, IR, ultrasound, whatever you're using, and the people that you work with. What I've found very successful in a lot of the programs that I've worked with as a contractor is giving what I used to call a vibration 101 class to the maintenance people. So it's not anything, you know, technical or anything. It's just high level understanding of why when I ask them if they can give me the number of teeth on the sprocket, on the drive sprocket of a drive, when I ask for them, then I can tell them that if it's a 17 tooth sprocket, that's why I'm asking, because if I see vibration at 17 times the output speed of my gearbox, that's related to that sprocket. If I see a peak that's starting to increase or that's all of a sudden showing up at 34 times the running speed of output speed of my gearbox, that's 2 times that sprocket frequency. That's a very strong indication of I've got misalignment starting. So I could have a sprocket that's starting to shift on the shaft, or I could have something that's come loose that's allowing that gearbox to move around, that's affecting the alignment of my sprockets. And a lot of that, just that little simple couple hours of sitting there talking with the maintenance guys, giving those guys the understanding, then that pays big dividends, because then they could, if I write something up, those guys can tell me, you know, maybe it's a vein pass frequency that's showing up, and the guys are like, yeah, somebody went in and adjusted the valve and choked that valve back a little bit. It's not setting in the proper position. That's causing that increase in vein pass frequency. So the education is key to these remote programs and any reliability program that you're running. You don't have to have your guys certified in all this stuff, but help give them the fundamental knowledge of the technologies we're using, what it can and cannot do. I found that really increase the buy-in of the programs in the very beginning.
I agree with that. I like it a lot, and it's something that I probably have lacked in a little bit with my team. I have a few guys that have pretty good understanding of the vibration stuff. Those are the guys that are probably in the system most because they understand it and they feel more vested in it. So doing a little bit of in-house training, like Mark was saying, it doesn't have to be a certification, but at least give them the basics of what's going on is very key. And having some training done on the platform too, having whoever is your condition-based monitoring system, ease of use for the technicians on the platform is a big deal. If it's something that's kind of cumbersome, they're never going to use it. So make sure that when you guys do get a system, and after you vetted out different systems to see what's going to work for you, make sure it's still got that user friendliness for the technicians to actually want to get in there and use it.
And another thing I'll throw on that one, when we talk about those guys getting a high level understanding of stuff, I was at a couple sites where I kind of give the guys basic understanding of vibration and stuff and let them know that, hey, if you can't, because we had some big bearings that were on flakers and things like that, we couldn't always get the bearing number, but when they'd have this a cap off or something, they could see the number of rolling elements in the bearing. Those guys would count those number of rolling elements for me so I could narrow down what possible bearings could be in there. But those guys got really good at finding things, giving me blade counts on a pump or a fan or something, and giving that back to the program so that I could put the notes and help make better calls for those guys. Because if I can define the components in a machine better, then that makes the ability for me to give you guys better information coming back. But it also established the idea of having the communication. And to me, communication is key to having a very, very successful reliability program.
Yes.
So we've been hitting on a few different similar things that I want to kind of tie together. In the beginning, Ozella talked about playing the game of telephone, and Cody's talked about communicating the risk, and Mark has talked about giving a little bit of a vibration analysis primer to the technicians in the field. The common theme there is you equip the people who are responsible for doing the work or making the decisions with enough information to make better decisions. And that doesn't just stop in the maintenance or reliability department. That is your role as the wearer of many hats. It's very fitting that you have that in front of you because you are the wearer of many hats. And the more fluent that you can become in what your leadership is looking for and how they're measured, the more effective you are going to be in getting some of these initiatives off the ground and getting buy-in. And also, it's going to move you more into that strategic advisor role instead of the guy who always wants capital to do a new initiative.
I had a quick question. Maybe some of you do too, but sometimes one of the struggles is how to speak that language when you're the one that sees this value. Like maybe somebody that was here and they just heard what all of you said, and they want to go back and start to build this case because they want to maybe have their CMMS start to talk to the condition monitoring sensors. What would you suggest somebody do to start with that?
I would say if you're in that spot and you're doing condition monitoring already and your CMMS is not connected to it, talk to whoever your customer success manager or whatever the title is and say, here's what I want to do. Here's the platform that I'm using. I'm using Waites, and I'll connect you with whoever we need to at Waites. What are the options? I wouldn't go too direct and say, here's exactly how I want to do it. Put it back on the CMMS company to create the possibility. What are my options? What options do you have? All of the modern ones have something that can connect. There's a way to do it. So you don't have to do all the legwork yourself as the customer. They are equipped to make it happen.
Yeah, I just went through this conversation, sorry, maybe about a month ago with my CMMS and my monitoring platform. And I have 3 different options to choose from now, and it came from setting it up and having that meeting with the CMMS, and it went really good. I mean, but yeah, there's different options to choose. Of course, first option's the least expensive. You work up to the last option where you're putting in some money, but there's different options to do. So what Trent was saying, talk to your CMMS about it, get the ball rolling, and they'll figure out the options for you and the best way to do it.
That's exactly right. At the end of the day, your CMMS provider should really be building that case with you and or for you, right? If you need to make a case upstream your executive team about having those platforms connected, your CMMS provider, we understand the value of having all of that data connected. We understand the value of that layering. And so it's our job to work with you, to help you to frame that out and to be able to present that internally so that you can champion for yourselves what you need in order to continue to improve your operations.
And that kind of goes back to the point I made earlier about recording the technologies you're using and things like that. So one of the platforms I used to use, it had an asset list that was all the technologies that was applied to that single asset across the top of it. And all you had to do, you could pull that asset up, and then you'd have all the technologies that were applied to it, and click on it, and it would tell you, I've got this IR write-up on this motor on this drag conveyor. I got this oil analysis report wrote up on the gearbox, so I know I need to go in and flush this. The things like that. So the more information and the better you establish this thing, the quicker and easier it's going to be for you guys to find your bad actors and find out where you're looking. Because if maybe you've got a whole bunch of electrical issues that are showing up in one area of your plant, that could be a power quality issue. And if we record what we're finding and the technologies and things like that, that's going to help you look at the whole picture of your plant in general. So maybe it's just not, I've got some bad motors, maybe the maintenance crew in that area isn't doing a good job, when in fact it's a power quality issue that's coming in. So the more granular you get in putting that information in your CMMS systems, the more benefits you're going to see down the road as your programs begin to mature.
Something I was thinking of when you're saying that is a lot of times, real quick for everyone, how do you feel, like if you feel like you have strong frontline adoption with your CMMS, if you have one, raise your hand. If you feel like you don't have strong frontline adoption and technicians putting in data properly, raise your hand. All right, so one of the things, as you're describing that, we know what's happening, we're taking care of the problems, we're moving around the plant, we're reacting, we're firefighting, right? And it's very hard for us, if we're the technician, to take a lot of time to interact with something when we kind of already know what to do. But when you get those frontline workers to kind of adopt the process and you have really easy to use solution as your CMMS, you can improve that and then add in the standardization so we can get all these various data points, because the condition monitoring, if you're using Waites, is going to gather some of that, but we still need technician engagement. And with that standardization, all these data sets start to make sense, not only to your department, you'll start to see how and why your teams are moving better, but then as you move up the chain in leadership, mid-level management, and then all the way up to the C-suite, the boardroom, now we've got even better data, because what this all means, if you don't have that kind of frontline adoption, is any data they're making actionable as an organization is blind to what's really happening. So if you're going to close out work orders, you don't put in work order done, you put in some specifics. But the idea here is that the communication between the CMMS and the condition monitoring system with that critical asset, because this is most effective on your critical assets, the ones that really cause the expensive disruption, the downtime, and all that crazy firefighting. Once you have that in the mix, it starts making a hell of a lot more sense for the organization, and that's how it really benefits the organization operationally. And I think a lot of you have heard this and might agree, but that's where you're going to have to solve that particular gap. If you don't have frontline adoption, you have to solve it. And then I assume, Trent, when I go to make my case to leadership, if I'm speaking the right language, maybe I do have a chief maintenance officer that can help leadership understand why we need to invest in these technologies, as well as the training and the standardization in a way that those technicians don't feel resistant. They instead feel seen. They instead feel empowered. They see the value. So I hope that kind of resonates. I mean, show of hands, does that kind of make sense? All right, 2 or 3 people. Any questions so far at all? Nothing's off limits here. No brave souls? You get a CMMS radio cap if you ask a question. You want to be cool, rolling around with this.
Should have brought mine.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes, sir.
Somebody's got a problem.
So when you link your vibration monitoring or your inspection to an automatic link back in your CMMS system, are you sending that call out to a lead or to a technician, or are you sending it back through your planner? How do you filter that to get it back out to the workforce to get the repair done or the follow-up? What's your route that way?
That's good, and I've been working through how I exactly want to do it. I think what I'm going to end up doing is, one, my lead from each shift will get that work order, because it'll auto-populate as a work order, not a request, because I want it real time. I don't want a request where I have to go in and approve it, because if I don't see it in the middle of the night. So I want a work order to go into the system, and I want it to go to my 4 leads on the different shifts, so that one person from every shift has got that ability to see that work order populate and then go work on it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You got to pump the van away for a little bit.
So I just follow on that. So you say you want to generate a work order, right? So
Yep.
your lead's going to get that right off the bat. You're dealing with 700 plus work orders in the system, and you've got to plan around scheduling, and when lines are down and when the availability, well, it doesn't apply. I mean, because when that work order comes in on 3rd shift, you're shifted on manpower, resources, everything there, right?
Right.
And usually based on, we're union, so your least experienced people there, and sometimes you don't want them to jump into that, right? So,
Right.
I mean, there's some things there, but how do you empower your personnel on these off shifts to make the decision that says, you know what, this just popped in, you know what, I'm going to take what was left and planned for me already and already scheduled, prioritize this that just popped in right now.
Right. Those are lots of conversations you have to have, and I don't know the one way to do it, but I base it on, I talk to my guys about, is it safety? Is it going to affect the environment? Is it going to hurt the equipment? And then lastly, how's it going to affect production? And so I kind of let my guys base their questions on that criteria, and then they'll have to prioritize it. And they've done a very good job at that. But yeah, we want to take care of the most critical things first. And they've got to be able to, as a lead, not just a regular, lower union guy that hasn't been there very long. I mean, of course, that makes sense, and you're going to have to figure that out. Mine, I don't have that. I got 28 guys. I don't have 700 work orders in my system, so mine's probably a little bit easier to navigate. But give them the tools to help prioritize that.
And I think you answered it, and that's you push it down and empower them, right?
Yeah.
To go back to yours is when you empower them, and then they feel ownership, right? When they have the power to make a decision, they feel the ownership, and then that would turn and drive the system.
Absolutely. I think I have a kind of a generalized opinion. I don't know if I'm right, but I think maintenance people actually love to be accountable, but it has to make sense. And when that means you can be what you are and do the great work that you want to do, you get on a better path towards that. And it feels mushy and gushy, but it's a true thing. I mean, don't we all love when we do great work and people just get out of our way, but they give us the tools and the autonomy and the trust to do what we do? That's what it's all about.
When it came to the back shift stuff, when I was in the tire plant, we were union, like you said. The back shift, their priority was if something came in, we got the work order, and it was broke down, so the machine's not running. That was top priority. We take care of that, and then after that, you come back to look at the work orders that you had on your list. Maybe I've got 45 minutes or an hour, and I've got to find a work order here that's not critical, but it takes me 15 minutes to knock out. So that's kind of how we dealt with it back at the tire plant, and a couple other places that I worked in the past. But the back shift is always tough trying to figure it out. So you don't want to overwhelm the guys, and you give them the flexibility, to take a little ownership in what's going on.
To help with making those decisions, what I've seen clients do is just make sure that those work orders coming in have the appropriate tags, the criticality indicated for the assets, and their own prioritization. That puts it into some buckets more automatically. So then as the teams are filtering through and making those judgment calls and decisions, half that work has been done to kind of help them get a little bit further along in making the choice of which one they're going to tackle first.
Right, that absolutely makes sense to that aspect. But if you're going to have whatever software automatically generate, right? Because you get your vibrate analysis, right? And it gives you a base recommendation, right? It may be in a red, hey, this is critical, you're impending failure, which you probably know that. You're probably hearing a bang or a thump or squill away at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
Or there might be the yellow that says, hey, you know what? Hey, grease this and then follow up on your next regular PM. Okay, well that can wait till 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't even put that on the top of my list.
Yep.
But having that system determine that this becomes the priority, you're now giving up your ability and your stuff and moving that up and kind of moving that away from your planners and your leads.
Right.
And so you're taking their job away from them and can make them feel less empowered to make those decisions. And I think that's kind of dangerous, because while we trust these computers to make these decisions for us, I think that human interaction and the experience of our experienced maintenance teams that we have need to know that we have the trust and confidence in them to make the best decisions for each of our plants on the best interest.
That gives me a question to build on that. Is there any form, I've never asked this question before, is there any form of stage gating so that planner can still be empowered to say, yep, agreed, go? I'm curious.
So I have done something like that, and every union plant is a different plant. We talk union and non-union, but every union plant is a different set of rules. We talk about empowering people, and that's an easy answer to give, but how do you empower people? Something that I had a lot of success with was doing a small training about the business of manufacturing at this plant. And we talk about the cost of downtime and the risk, and educate even those on the back shift, because the good thing about the back shift is everybody's inexperienced, everybody's green, everybody's new. So the more you can help your back shift communicate risk, the more likely they are to say, yeah, take that offline. Let's go ahead and knock that out. So how do you stage gate it? You bring those people in the room and you say, hey, we know how much downtime costs, we know what the risk is to the business. What happens if we do nothing? And in economics, there's something called second order effects. And if you haven't looked into that, I would really encourage you to Google it, check it out. And you talk about the second order effects are the things that happen as a consequence of the initial consequence. So if we do nothing, we ignore that alert, what happens? Maybe a bearing fails. If a bearing fails, production stops. That impacts our units sold. That impacts our customer. That impacts our place in the market. So the more dots you can connect with the people who are doing the work, the more empowered they actually are going to be to say, I like this new initiative. I can see how it makes sense and it makes my job easier. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
That's good.
And I think on the back shift, especially union environments I've been involved with, their priority is keeping the plant running first. After everything's up and running, if you guys don't have nothing coming in, here's a list of stuff you guys can do that'll help us out. But the first priority is, if it's broke, fix it, and I'm sorry to say, real world is, I may not fix it right, but I got it running until the guys come in during the day and I can get the proper parts, or I can get them from Motion or whoever I've got that's coming in, because I don't have the proper part, but I can at least get it running so that we're getting stuff down, and then follow up with it, and get it planned and scheduled to fix it right.
What do we got next on the magic slides?
Well, actually, the next thing was going to be actually showing our lovely audience here how everything works in terms of what it could look like to actually have that connected system in place. If I can actually get it back. So I'm going to pull that up.
There's a
And
few internet things in here, it's just a real challenge.
we've had such a good time with it.
It's kind of like,
There we
kind of
go.
like the maintenance world, right? I said it at the beginning, stuff happens.
Slide.
Sorry, Jerry, I should have said shit.
Slide over there.
No, it's okay. I'm not moderating for language.
There we go. So I'm going to push play here, and then Mark's going to
Mark's
kind of
gonna
talk
explain.
through this flow.
This is kind of I give you an idea of how we do it at Waites. So what happens is the analyst, we get an alert, our system generates the alert. Well, that went really fast.
Yeah, it's going really fast.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause it.
Okay.
There we go.
It generates an alert. So then we have what we call pre-AIs. So the vibration triggers something. Our AI says, hey, there's an anomaly happening. It goes back to an actual person. That person pulls up that spectrum, waveform, whatever, looks at it, comes up and confirms, you know, you got misalignment, you got unbalance, you got looseness or something like that. So then what they do is they send a notice out to the site. And this is, it goes out to the site, and we've got a communication thing that's typically on the right side that'll give you an action item. And then that right now is linked to MaintainX. That action item with the MaintainX will generate the work order. And that goes to the site. Then the site does the work, whatever we've requested. He puts the information back to MaintainX. Then that gets dumped into our system. That note goes back to the analyst to say what they found, what they didn't find, what they worked on. And then the analyst will review that information and did it correct the problems or not, and if it didn't correct the problems, here's the next thing to go back and check. But again, it comes back to communication. For this to work really good, our analyst, you'll have along the right side of the screen, you'll have all the comments and stuff in the exchange between the site and the analyst, so that everybody stays in compliance or in communication, so we're not making it oversimplified or making them do work that's not needed to be done, if that makes sense.
Now, this is more so talking about the MaintainX side, and then part of the flow and how the team actually executes the work and continues to communicate back and forth with Waites. We'll walk through this actually in the system in a minute, but I wanted to pause for a minute because at the top of this conversation, some of you came in a little bit after, but we were talking about taking signals, initial signal ingestion, and those signals taking different forms, right? In some of your worlds, that signal looks like the paperwork order that we have on the table there in front of you, where it's someone has to get a slip and fill something out to try to initiate action or make something happen, and then ends up in a stack, maybe. Sometimes that looks like a radio call or walkie-talkie. We talked about that telephone chain earlier, right? And sometimes it looks like the condition-based monitoring that a lot of you raised your hands earlier and said that you have installed. And then there's someone monitoring, a controls engineer, or someone monitoring those different signals or alerts coming off of your monitoring systems, and then still have to go back and manually enter it or copy it over into that CMMS platform so that someone can then take an action based off the translation there, right? So the idea being that, hey, if we have these connected immediately, we're not having a lot of the data integrity lost in translation along the way. And the resolution on this screen's a bit light, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen next is once the work is actually closed, you want to, again, close that loop, similar to what Cody was talking about earlier, right? You get the initial signal, you complete the work, you've made it actionable, but then you want to go back and resolve the alert, right? You want to close that out. so that that transaction is effectively done. And then that's going to give you the information that deposits back to your analytics to say what happened, why did it happen, the who done it, right? How did they fix it? When did it close? And you have all of your metrics, all of your timestamps and your compliance records all associated together.
And on some of this is, if we're doing good notes and stuff back and forth, then the AI actually starts learning, and it's like we had talked about the sprocket situation. You know, I'm seeing an increase at this frequency. Last time this same pattern started showing up, it was we went in and corrected the alignment, and it dropped out of alarm. So now I'm very confident when I see that same pattern again, because I've got the information back from you guys, that I can automatically jump to, you know, you've got a misalignment issue with the sprocket. And maybe that sprocket is a taper locked hub, you know, and what happened was actually the taper lock was coming loose and it was backing off, and that was allowing it to move. Now I've got the real world data and the real explanation from the maintenance guy that fixed it. So this time now when it shows up again, I can point to it, and as an analyst what I would do is refer back to the last time. Last time this happened, the taper lock was coming loose. Check sprocket alignment, ensure the taper lock is torqued and installed properly. You know, so that closes the loop. It helps your helps your guy on the floor that's going out to look at it. He'll get more confidence in the systems that you have as he's starting to find this, and he'll also understand the value of the quality comments that he's putting back, how it's making his life easier.
So I think a big line to really just kind of emphasize here, right, that we are really helping to reduce and avoid some additional costs of reactive maintenance, right? And that's going to compound over time. The incidents are going to happen. The bearings are going to fall and fail, they're going to fail. You're going to eventually have some of those issues based on the condition and the usage of your equipment over time. But in order to start to feed into, you know, what Mark was talking about around the AI component, I'm sure a number of you have had 1,000,001 different AI conversations over the last few months, or even right here at the conference, right? It's popping up everywhere. But you have to feed those systems accurate information so that they can be genuinely intelligent. And that comes from, again, capturing these signals early and being able to log the records of exactly what's happening throughout that chain. That's what's informing and giving you accurate data and accurate intelligence within your platforms. I think this is actually going to, it's getting ready to conclude here. Anything to add on this, Mark, or do we just want to go straight into actual platform?
Yeah, we can go back to.
Okay.
It was, the whole idea of this video was to give you an idea. You know, the vibration signal sends an alert to the analyst looks at it, gives a confident idea of what's going on. He sends it out to Cody and his team. Those guys take the thing, they build the work order, they take it out to the floor, they look at it, do the inspections, do the repairs, whatever. They close it out, that information sent back to the analyst, and then we put it in our notes, and we tag it as what was found, you know, and then we've got that information in the future. But it all comes back down to having clear, concise communication on each step, and that's where the value comes in. I've been places where when the guys would close out work orders, all they did was, the old guys like me, just typed in repair. I'm not going to spend a half hour writing all this crap up. The new CMMS systems that are out there, a lot of them have a voice application. Though I can take, and instead of sitting there trying to type it out with my fat fingers and my poor English and my poor grammar, I can sit here and talk to it, and then that thing will clean it up and put that really good quality note in there for you. It saves your guy on the floor time because he doesn't have to do all this. It gives us good quality information that goes back into the system.
And incidentally, the reason we created the video, and thank you Ozella and Mark for putting that together, we actually wanted to bring in a real-time piece of equipment. We wanted to have internet connection with MaintainX and Waites sensor monitoring all happening in real time. but for many reasons, let's say mostly liability, we weren't able to do it. And we also don't have strong enough internet. So the whole idea behind the workshop was to really be able to gather around and do this. So we've kind of made a slight adjustment, and I hope it's been effective so far. Are there any questions so far? Fire away.
With the integration between the Waites and MaintainX, is there a way that when the technician gets their work order that shows that, you know, that the compressor went into alarm, that there's misalignment, or whatever the case may be? I saw whenever they were scrolling up, it looked like that you could, I guess, talk with the analyst that found it.
Yep.
Is there a way, like what we've had in our site, that's kind of helped, I guess, win the technicians over a little bit, to where if I pull up our vibration system, where none of us are really just top-notch experts on vibration analysis,
That's
but
right.
like on that software, it shows your overall vibration of the machine, and then like where it went into alarm or
Yep.
where it went into monitor, and then I guess like after we make the repair, where I've been able to show the technicians, like, look, here's what it was in alarm. We, you know, changed out this coupling, or we greased this electric motor to where it was the next time that, even though we don't have like a handheld vibration tool, those sensors, the next time they went through their update, you could see within an hour of making the repair that it was down.
That's
Is
right.
there a way that they could see that on the on the CMMS, where they could pull
That's
up,
right.
I guess, the machine health or whatever
That's
you want to call
right.
it?
That's
I
exactly
current-
right.
I currently do the same thing you do, and I think it's very good for the technicians to be able to see that. And I've used those same snapshots when I've talked to people above me for trying to try new things out, because there's the data right there in front of you. There was an issue, we went in and fixed it, and there's the results from it. It's back into the normal operating levels, so
Okay,
that's
'cause
good.
That was just to keep the technicians from having to have like a vibration login on this app and then a CMMS log, where they could just log into that and make it easier on them to see their progress in real time and not have to have someone show it to them. Or like the less experienced guys on nights, they might not know, they're not a vibration expert, but they can work a tablet and be able to read an overall vibration to see if what they did worked. You know, just something like that.
A lot of times the guys at Waites will put like a before and after spectrum or waveform to show how it's changed, or a trend or things like that. So I think that all gets transferred into MaintainX, the way we've integrated things.
Yeah,
So
we
that's,
have those images here, and then we also have the images here, like right within the communication. We're
Yeah.
able to have all of that captured, but specific to the asset health, right? And there's more of those images here coming from that Waites analyst right into MaintainX. But I think, you know, just scrolling back up, specific to your point, can I see the asset? Right, I can tap right into it immediately on my work order. I know if it's online or if it's in some other state, right? Whatever other downtime states or codes I might have in here, I would see that depending on the state that it's in. And then I could also visualize directly from the asset more information about its history or its status and things like that over a period of time, if it's been offline or down, you know, so on and so forth. So yes, I can visualize that for sure. But one thing that we wanted to do with you all, just as a part of this exercise, right, and we kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but I'm going to run it back. We're talking about signals and, you know, the speed of different types of signals. We talked about the blank work orders that you have. You also have some QR codes in front of you. So you can use your phone camera, just your standard phone camera, to scan those codes and enter a work request, for example.
You can do that right now.
You can do that right there. Some of you might have air compressors, some of you might have motors, and you can just go through the experience of just submitting a very simple work request. It's not going to be a very deep or extended one. It's probably 2 or 3 fields for simplicity.
Yeah, if we could get everyone to scan one of those QR codes, it would be really awesome.
And then we can start to see those requests coming in real time. And so that echoes that experience again of ingesting signals, right? How quickly can we get information in? And that's what happens as well through that Waites integration. Those signals come in and they drop work requests. They drop work orders right in the system. So it's just as immediate.
And you could put funny jokes in there if you want. You know? And we apologize, the light washes out the text.
Yeah.
It's actually really, really good data. We haven't been able to figure that out.
washing out everything I can
Yeah,
see
it's
too.
all washed out. I know. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
blinded.
Are we getting any yet?
I think it's dial up in here.
And that old
there's
DSL, we gotta bring back that
There we go.
antiquated
Help.
stuff.
It
We
helps.
got one popped in. We got a repair motor popped in.
Cool.
So they're coming. Motor's making a weird sound. We got a leak.
You know, you
Another
laugh
motor
about
issue.
motor making a weird sound, but that's the stuff that I've been given as a maintenance guy. You know, hey, this thing's making a weird noise. Come look at it. You know, that's the real world we live in. We don't get these. There's too many people out there, especially when you talk to AI. They want to always talk about how they're working in a lab with perfect information and stuff like that. That's not the world that we live in.
That's right. It's that weird sound. That's the original signal, right?
Help, who put in
Yeah.
help?
Help. The board moved, exactly. So all these they just start dropping in high temp, right? And then, you know, the next thing, just while we're on the topic of people, it's okay, now I've got this request in, what do I do with it? What do I know? What's next? What steps do I take? And that's where that conversation comes in with that analyst, the communication. Everything we keep tying back to communication, whether it's between systems, between teams, between people, right? Between people and systems, to be able to capture that information. I'm going to keep saying the same things over and over because I think when you guys leave here, the signal to act, to report, to resolve, right? Closed loop communication, human in the loop. Those are the things that need to resonate going forward because that's going to help to power. There we go. We got a motor making noise. Exactly.
We got a duck that's out of alignment.
Yeah, we've got a duck out of alignment. Well, we got to get the ducks in a row.
Yeah.
We got to get the ducks in a row. Duck found to be out of alignment. There we go. Oh, this is a good one.
There you go.
Someone went straight for gold. Oh,
Nice.
excellent.
Who did that?
That was a good one.
That's a hat.
That one gets an extra
Yeah.
hat. 100%.
Hat here, and whoever did that, raise your hand.
Motor's making a weird sound.
Nobody's
Right.
raised their hand.
You didn't catch the first letter of each one, did you?
No, my glasses are back
All right.
on.
Leak. So then the next question is, right, if I get it.
Unknown, can fix, knowledge.
There we go. So I'm approving it. I'm going through that process, but of course, you know, similar to I heard it was mentioned in the crowd earlier, and Cody mentioned it. Having this automatically generate a work order, right? In this particular case, I'm going through the motion so we can kind of see what happens next, right? And you know what type of steps I'm going to take to generate it, but. In the ideal scenario, this automatically takes that request, whether it's coming directly from the sensor signal or from the work request or from scheduled work, any of those different signal inputs to generate that work order and continue to move it right along, right? And then the next question is, how exactly am I going to get the work done? What steps am I going to take? How am I going to look it up? Some of you have manuals in front of you because that's what a lot of times we gotta go flipping through pages, right, to figure it out, or we have to call Mark, or we have to call Cody because they have been in the machine forever. They have been at the plant or the facility for a while. They are veterans. They are familiar. They know how to solve it's making a funny sound. It sounds weird. It's too hot. What do I do, right?
How come nobody's calling Trent?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, we can call Trent too. He's in the boardroom.
Good point. That's all I was making sure. everybody
We're
knows.
calling
We can call
Trent
Trent.
when it's over so he can bring us lunch.
Yes.
He's got to bring in biscuits and donuts in the morning.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So, in the world that we want to promote, right? You have that signal coming from your system. You have it automatically generating your work order. You have it automatically routed to the appropriate teams who have the capability and the capacity to do that work. And then you're surfacing, leveraging AI, leveraging the history, leveraging the data, leveraging the PDF versions of those manuals, leveraging the manufacturer data and the asset history, to then surface information about that equipment and support you more quickly getting it done without having to run to the back office and flip through 50 pages and find what's on page 35 about how I start to troubleshoot it, right? And again, when we're talking about, the sprinkles of AI earlier, that is a dream state for a lot of folks. And in order to get the most out of it, you need good quality data at the front end to reinforce that. And that's the same story with predictive. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Greg?
You absolutely may.
I appreciate that. So, this has been great. And so when I think around like top floor, shop floor, coming together,
Yep.
they're terrible about shaking hands. Bad handshakes are uncomfortable for everybody. That's part of that, right? And so if we're thinking about data creation,
Yep.
Mark waits, data creation, vibrations coming in, data's being organized in a system like MaintainX, getting your KPIs in there, in the most simplest way possible. And Trent, maybe this is a question for you or to start. What does the board really care about at the end of the day? What matters to board and executives that this data that's being created and filtered through a CMMS, how does that ultimately get to a point where you're talking about things that boardrooms want to react to?
So, maybe a bit of a hot take, but the board doesn't
Hot take
care.
all day, man.
Yeah. The board doesn't care about your condition monitoring. The board doesn't care about your CMMS. Whoa. So the board cares about profits. They care about market share. They care about what the stakeholders care about. So how do you connect those dots? You connect it, like we were talking about earlier, the signal is ingested, the technician receives information, the fix has been implemented, and then you tell that story all the way up the ladder. We avoided this much downtime. They kind of care about downtime, but they care about lost production in dollars a lot more than downtime. And you may say, that's the same thing. I get it, but it's different. It lands differently whenever you're talking their language. And like the game of telephone that Ozella was talking about in the beginning, we're playing the game of telephone, but we have to tailor our message to something they care about in order to get what we want.
So how do you, because that's awesome. So then how do you like empower and get the most ROI out of your CMMS to then like give you that data to have those conversations?
I think it starts with educating your team.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the cost of downtime in your plant, go talk to your finance person, your controller, somebody, get that data and package it in a way so that your technicians can understand it and start to teach them, here's how the business works. Here's why it's important. And then they're going to start to buy in because they're going to think, what's in it for me? And if you can preach the business side to a maintenance technician in a way that it makes sense to them, they're going to start seeing, hey, this data helps me. This data makes my job easier, like Mark was saying. They feed the system because it helps them. And that's going to create that snowball effect.
The old saying at the tire plant I always go back to is I could go in and talk to the plant engineer, the director of manufacturing all day long about, I've got XYZ tire machine's been down for 5 hours, I found this, I did that. The only thing they cared about was the saying that we had round and black and out the back. So I go in and tell them, hey, XYZ tire machine went down, we lost 25 tires. Those guys, get noticed that way. But they didn't care about anything else. It was just how many tires were going out that back door. That's the language that they looked at. And if I could go in and tell them something that I could do to increase that number by 10, 12, 15 units, those guys were all over that.
Yes. If you can start equating your initiatives and your risk in dollars, you're going to see a lot of yours perk up. Like at BMW, whenever I was there, $75,000 a minute. So whenever I said, I need to take this down for 20 minutes, do some quick math, and is it worth it or can it wait until the weekend? And those decisions get made faster instead of somebody having to chew on it and think about it. You come armed with data and a recommendation and the risk.
Yeah, we have lots of those conversations about, you know, the data and the risk and what you're willing to do now versus what you're waiting for on the down day. So it's important to be able to talk about that and have the numbers behind it and the cost of what everything is going to entail, whether you do it now or you wait 4 days and do it on the downtime.
Question for everybody, and Jeremy, thank you. It's like, because you didn't see any of this stuff before, and his question was completely spot on timing.
Yeah.
I want to ask everyone, and be brutally honest, did we connect the dots? Did we connect the plant floor to the boardroom? Show of hands, yes. Show of hands, no. You haven't raised your hand.
There we go.
You can't be in the middle.
Call it a no. He's got a question.
It's okay. You got a question? Who's got a question?
And we have
I think
time
he's
for
got
a
a question
segue,
right
now.
so we can build the bridge.
Fire away.
I think there's a little bit of a gap that I'm just not seeing a connection from, okay, as a financial person, the risk. Okay, what is my risk of not doing it, right? If my downtime is this, what kind of guarantees do I have that I won't have that downtime with these systems?
I've got a really good example, and it blew me away when I found out. There was a little boiler. It was a pressure booster pump for the city water in a plant. I found, and it's a 5 horsepower motor, little Group 1 centrifugal pump, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I found an early stage bearing defect in it. So I wrote it up and told the maintenance manager, and I told the superintendent, you know, hey, we've got this, it's not a big deal, it'll probably run for 6 months or a year. You know, I just wanted to get it on your radar and stuff. And we were getting ready to go into an outage the following week, and they're like, you know, go talk to the planner and get it on his scope, make sure that he's got the motor and stuff so we can get it changed out. And it's like, it's not a big deal. And they said, no, that pump only goes down once every 18 months because I have to take the whole plant down. That is a big deal for me. Vibration levels were very low, you know, and it's like, but some people that I know wouldn't have even written it up, you know, because it was so early on the P to F curve, you know, but it's the way I looked at it when I found this stuff, even if it could run a long time, I wrote it up, I put it on the radar. I was a contractor. So I put it on the planner's radar, the maintenance manager's radar, and it's like, they were just ecstatic that I found it because it was perfect timing. We're going into an outage, we're changing the thing out, and if I would have not said anything and we came out of the outage, 2 or 3 months later it started to come up, then it was a huge financial impact on that plant.
Do you have a specific example that's in your mind?
No, I'm just trying to think of, you know, downtime can sometimes be, if it hasn't happened or isn't currently happening, so everyone's on board when the downtime is right now.
Right.
Let's pull all the strings we can to get it up and running. But when we say, hey, we need to take this down, we need to spend these dollars, and before it goes down, that can be a little bit hard to quantify unless you have, for downtime, unless you have like a safety, a food safety, or quality component.
So, you're in the food industry?
Yes.
So I would, with those and with anybody, I would say if you can get in the habit of communicating these 4 things and get really good at communicating these 4 things, that's going to become an easier conversation because you already have historical data. So if you can communicate the current condition, here's what we got, and then communicate the risk. Here's the cost of doing nothing. Downtime. This motor fails, it takes us 8 hours to change it. Here's the lost production dollars. And then communicate the consequence. What are those second order effects? If we run it until failure, it happens on the off shift. And then we lose even more time because the techs are inexperienced. And you just keep piling those on until it impacts your customer, your market share, food. I mean, you have huge contamination risk. Pull all the levers that are relevant.
I would just say, you know, coming also from the food industry is, you know, I'm not the plant manager, right? But I'm going to inform you as the plant manager, this is the risk that I see. So when it happens, you knew about it, right?
Right.
Don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, you know what, this just happened. Yeah, I told you about it 2 months ago. I told you about it last week. We could took the line down over the weekend, had it fixed in a day plan. You knew the risk. I informed you of the risk, and you get to make the call. You hold the strings of the purse, and you hold the ability to plan a schedule. Don't get caught with that in your wheelhouse. If you see something falling inside your wheelhouse that's failing, don't hold that secret. If you see something that's going to be safety, production stop, or some kind of emergency, make sure the right people know at the right time so they can make the decision. If they choose not to make it, you can walk away with a clear conscience.
Yeah. Current condition, the risk, the consequences, and then finish with a recommendation. Don't say, hey, this is bad, we need to do something. Say, here's my recommendation, and then I always put that in writing.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad Trent brought that up, because I was going to bring up the historical data and follow up, because there's a lot of the proof, most of the proof that you'll need.
Yeah.
We could have planned for this downtime, instead of in the middle of shift, we could have planned for it on a regular outage. So the historical data is a great way to prove that.
And what you were describing in your question, in this example, they're going to drag out the checkbook when there's a right now emergency and we got to take care of it, and it's a 10x spend. And what you're talking about is, I'm telling you, I'm showing you, and they don't believe it until it happens, and they just keep paying for that. They keep paying for that, and they don't invest in what is going to make that happen way down the line or less often. And that's why we want to try to make this case connecting it from the floor to the board, and they just don't see it. That's why I wanted Trent here for that chief maintenance officer role that really does not exist. I'm sure of it. In the organizations that get it and invest highly in their maintenance processes, CMMS, condition monitoring, all done right, not just because we're slapping technology on to solve a problem, but that's how you do it. And the challenge is they just refuse to see it. And I'm not trying to crucify those organizations and that leadership. I'm saying they need to learn more, and they're going to do it from a peer. That's why I always talk about that role. I want to ask you, sir, why and how we didn't connect it from the floor to the board.
I said yes after you asked.
Oh, you changed your mind? Somebody over here said no. Who was it? Nobody?
We still got time to make the connection.
Now, to piggyback off what Greg said, and also what you said, you're going to communicate those things really well. You're going to do your part, and you're still going to have the failure because nobody listened to you. But as long as you can develop that skill of being able to win with people and not be like, dummy, I told you so. If you can communicate it in a way that says, hey, I think we saw this coming and now we're just reaping the consequences, that's going to slowly move you, a very expensive way of slowly moving you into that more strategic advisor, that trusted advisor role. And if it goes well, they'll start to listen. Hey, he called that out, and then it happened. This guy can see the future. So let's start listening to him.
We got about 5 minutes.
I had a really good example. I worked with a guy that got it. I was the vibration guy for his plant for almost 16 years. And this guy really got it. It was an extraction plant, so you're dealing with explosive environments and stuff like that. We had a final vent fan that we had a bearing that was going bad. It was bad, but it wasn't real bad. So I'd written it up. I gave it to the planner scheduler, and at the end of the day, when I was getting ready to go home, Dave asked me if I'd found anything interesting, because my old saying was, a good day for me is a bad day for the plant because I found an issue. Other than that, vibration day to work is boring. So I said, yeah, I said, the final vent fan's got an issue. Explained to him what it was doing. He's like, well, what are they going to do? I said, Donnie said, just don't worry about it. He's going to run it. And he's like, no. He said, hold on. He said, meet me in the meeting room. And he went and got the plant superintendent. He got the production manager for the area. And he took the planner in there, the maintenance manager. They all got together in a group. And his theory was, we can run it if you want and take the risk. That's fine with me, but we're going to make this decision as a group. If we take the thing down now, we can take it down tomorrow. Extraction's going to be down for probably 4 hours. We're going to lose this amount of money. We can continue to let it run, and if it trashes, we're going to be down for at least a day or more. and it's going to cost you this much, but we're going to make this decision as a group so that whatever we make the decision, everybody shares a part of that responsibility. He was very good at open communication, whether you wanted to hear it or not. You know, he was very good at the uncomfortable conversations that you had. He became very comfortable with them. But that guy got it, but he was always bringing in everybody and financials. He was maintenance, but he always brought in the other guys on the financial side. This is how it's going to impact you.
So, if we've, for the most part, successfully completed our mission and there are any gaps, I want to encourage every one of you to connect with any of these individuals for help. If you need my help getting in touch with them or me kind of taking a shot at something, because I'm not the guru, I just know who they are, right? And Jeremy, thanks for your participation. Everybody for being so patient. If I owe you a cap, please come on up. I'd love you to grab one. Thanks for, putting up with my kind of picking on your back a little bit. And let's go get ready for a party with Casino Night. It's one of the most special things that happens at Reliable Plant every year. It's a freaking blast. And then for any of you that got the invitation, we got CMMS Radio After Dark happening after that. And thank you for being here for Floor to the Board. Cheers for our panelists. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.